Joining me now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, former Republican vice presidential nominee Paul Ryan. Speaker Ryan, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jake. How are you doing today?
So, Mr. Speaker, you have said throughout this process that you will support the Republican presidential nominee. Now you have a presumptive nominee, Donald Trump. Will you support him?
Well, to be perfectly candid with you, Jake, I'm just not ready to do that at this point. I'm not there right now. And I hope to, though, and I want to. But I think what is required is that we unify this party. And I think the bulk of the burden on unifying the party will have to come from our presumptive nominee. I don't want to underplay what he accomplished. He needs to be congratulated for an enormous accomplishment, for winning not now a plurality of delegates, and he's on his way to winning a majority of delegates. But he also inherited something very special. That's very special to a lot of us. This is the party of Lincoln, of Reagan, of Jack Kemp. And we don't always nominate a Lincoln and a Reagan every 4 years. But we hope that our nominee aspires to be Lincoln and Reagan-esque, that person advances the principles of our party and appeals to a wide, vast majority of Americans. And so I think what is necessary to make this work, for this to unify, is to actually take our principles and advance them. And that's what we want to see. Saying we're unified doesn't in and of itself unify us, but actually taking the principles that we all believe in, showing that there's a dedication to those, and running a principle campaign that Republicans can be proud about, and that can actually appeal to a majority of Americans. That, to me, is what it takes to unify this party.
So you're saying you can't support or endorse him right now?
Yeah, I am basically saying that. Look, I thought about this 2 days ago. I thought actually this thing was going to go to June 7 at the very least, probably to a convention. And so this is all pretty new for us. But at this point, I think that he needs to do more to unify this party, to bring all wings of the Republican Party together, and then to go forward and to appeal to all Americans in every walk of life, every background, a majority of independents and discerning Democrats. And so, I think conservatives want to know, does he share our values and our principles on limited government, the proper role of the executive, adherence to the Constitution? There are lots of questions that conservatives, I think, are going to want answers to, myself included. And I want to be a part of this unifying process. I want to help unify this party, but we have to unify it, I think, for us to be successful, for us to have a campaign that Republicans are proud of going forward, that is unifiable, and that actually can go and appeal to a vast majority of Americans.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you're casting this in characteristically optimistic and positive terms, and I would expect no less from you. But what you're saying is a fairly dramatic announcement that the Speaker of the House cannot, as of now, support his party's nominee for president. Is there something specific that he has done or said that has brought you to this moment?
Well, like I said, I hope to support our nominee. I hope to support his candidacy fully, and I want to do that. But right now, I got to tell you, Jake, just being candid with you, at this point, I'm just not there right now. And it's because I think of part of the last campaign. I don't want to go back and roll the tape. Look, I was pretty clear, and I was outspoken on a number of occasions where I think that he did the wrong thing or said the wrong thing. And I'll do that in the future if need be. I hope it's not necessary. But I think what a lot of Republicans want to see is that we have a standard bearer that bears our standards and that unifies all the wings of the Republican Party, which we all come from different wings of our party, but we all agree on a common platform of conservative principles. We want somebody who takes these conservative principles, applies them to the problems, and offers solutions to the country that a vast majority of Americans can vote for, that they want to be enthusiastic about. That is what I think it takes to unify the party. That I think there's work that needs to be done in order to unify the party. I think our nominee, our presumptive nominee, needs to do that. I want to be a part of helping him do that. But right now, no. I think that there's some work to do here. Let me say it this way. Republicans have been watching each other go after each other for 6 months. Democrats are doing the same thing because we've had a bitter primary process. And I think we sometimes forget just how successful we've been. We have the biggest House majority since 1928. We have 54 Republican Senate seats. We have state legislative majorities and governorships that we haven't seen in years, in decades. And so we've done extremely well. Our party is enjoying success because we've unified around common conservative principles. And we have one more hill to climb, one more mountaintop. That's the presidency. So please know that we think the stakes are extremely high. They're the highest that they've been. The Supreme Court, Congress, the future of America is on the line. And no Republican should ever think about supporting Hillary Clinton. Let me make that clear. But for us to be a successful party, to climb that final hill and win the presidency, we will need a standard bearer that can unify all Republicans, all conservatives, all wings of our party, and then go to the country with an appealing agenda that can be appealing to independents and disaffected Democrats. And we have work to do on this front, and I think our nominee has to lead in that effort.
As you know, Mitt Romney, John McCain, George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, all of them, Republican presidential nominees or presidents, have said they're not going to go to the convention in Cleveland. In fact, I want to get your view. Watch this clip of your former running mate, Mitt Romney, talking about Donald Trump earlier this year.
Think of Donald Trump's personal qualities: the bullying, the greed, the showing off, the misogyny, the absurd third-grade theatrics. Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University. He's playing the members of the American public for suckers. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat.
Do you share Governor Romney's views? Trump's a phony, a bully, and a fraud?
Look, here's what I think, Jake, and I think you're going to see tapes like that running all fall. The question is, can our presumptive nominee turn things around, unify, and have a different kind of cadence going forward? The way I look at this, Jake, is it's time to go from tapping into anger to channeling that anger into solutions. It's time to set aside bullying, to set aside belittlement, and appeal to higher aspirations, appeal to what is good in us, and to lead a country and a party to having a vast majority of Americans enthusiastic about choosing a path. That's why I just feel so strongly about the chance and the choice and the opportunity we have in front of us. But for this to work, our presumptive nominee, I believe, needs to unify the party for the party to be unified. And I want to help them do that.
Do you think that's even possible? Do you think that's possible?
But just so you know, Jake, we're not there right now. We're not there right now. Yeah, I think it's possible, but we're not there right now. And I think it is possible, and we better get on with it. But I think we just need to be honest with each other about these things. And look, I think we can beat Hillary Clinton. Are you kidding me? So yes, I think it's possible, and it needs to be possible because so much is at stake.
So you don't think the damage has been done?
And I think our presumptive nominee has a bit of work to do.
You don't think that so much damage has been done that it's almost as if it's a lost cause? Because it seems to me, from hearing people like Mitt Romney, hearing Ted Cruz the other day call Donald Trump a pathological liar on the eve of Donald Trump winning it all. Donald Trump was attacking his father and suggesting that Rafael Cruz might have played a role in the Kennedy assassination. It doesn't seem like it's going to be possible to build that many bridges. You disagree?
I'm familiar with the points you're making. That is why, among other reasons, basically as a conservative, I want to see a verification that our conservative principles will be championed, will be run on, will be represented, and will be brought to the public in the country in a way that's appealing for us to be successful. So, like I said, we're not there yet. But yet, I mean, look, this man is going to get the nomination because he earned it. He deserved it. He won the vote. And more importantly, I think those of us need to learn a few lessons here. I think there's a bit of humility that each of us need, especially leaders in Congress, which is he tapped into something in this country that was very powerful. And people are sending a message to Washington that we need to learn from and listen to. But at the same time, now that we have a presumptive nominee who is going to be our standard bearer, I think it's very important that there's a demonstration that our standards will be bared. I mean, that he will advance our appreciation for limited government, for the Constitution, for the proper role of the executive, for the principles not only built our party, but built this country, and how we're going to apply those principles to offer solutions and run a campaign that Republicans can be proud of and run a campaign that Americans can be proud of. And yeah, looking back on the primary campaign, I think there are instances and episodes that question that. That's why I, at this point, am not ready to jump in. But I hope we can get there, and that's my goal.